Hi. So, alright, we're going to start episode 3 now. Forgive me, I'm kind of losing my voice or something. It's weird.
The third episode of Making a Murderer is entitled The Plight of the Accused and focuses on how difficult it was for Stephen Avery to defend himself against murder charges, specifically because, as his attorney Walt Kelly claimed, he did not enjoy a presumption of innocence.
The transformation from Stephen Avery as wronged victim of a miscarriage of justice to Stephen Avery, the horrendous murderer of an innocent young woman, was breathtaking. It left me stunned. The absence of any serious commentary that the presumption of innocence that he enjoys may in fact be valid, that there should not be a rush to judgment.
Never mind the...
Okay, hold on. First of all, this guy is leaving out something very important. He's about to go into that evidence was found at Stephen Avery's house. Fine, it was. That's a fact. The problem is that's not the only thing that this guy was talking about in that clip. He was also talking about the absolute ridiculous performance that Ken Kratz put on with the send the kids out of the room bullshit so he could tell this terrible story. All the other nonsense that he spread out in the media about what was going on. Yeah, anybody that listened to that is going to automatically believe this guy is guilty. There's no doubt. They have all this evidence to prove it, right? That is absolutely the problem. And like I said before, I think it is the reason I believe that he was convicted in the first place, because everyone thought he was guilty, including some of his own family members at first, because they didn't know what the hell was going on. The police were messing with everyone, trying to turn everyone against each other, which we'll get into in later episodes, I'm sure. But, it's... Anyway, we're going to let the guy keep talking.
Fact that at a preliminary hearing, prosecutors provided evidence that Teresa Halbach's RAV4 was found hidden on Avery's property. His DNA was found in that RAV4 and on Halbach's car key, which was found in his bedroom.
Okay. First of all, his DNA wasn't found in the RAV4. It was found underneath the hood latch, which, I guess technically, sort of. And first of all, we don't know for sure how that got there. If that was the crime lab opening the hood without changing his gloves, or something else. The DNA on the hood latch thing has just gotten ridiculous by Kratz calling it sweat DNA, because there's no such thing, obviously. We've already figured that out. That it could have been put there. His DNA could have been put there. Toothbrush. There you go. It's not that hard. You're on his property, fuck's sake. It's not going to be too hard to find something of his with his DNA on it to rub on anything, including the key. Obviously that key was either brand new, because it sure as hell didn't look used at all. I personally have a spare key to my Toyota that I've had since 2007 or so. I carry my spare key in my purse because, I'm a girl. The likelihood of leaving my purse and locking my keys in the car is not super high, so I'll have one or the other, luckily, and be able to get myself back in my car. But that spare key that I carry around has been used exactly one time by me, once. And it looks worn. It looks like an old key. It looks like crap because it's been carried around in my purse and it does not look brand new. That's what I'm trying to say. That key was brand new, or something was screwy with it. Not having any of Teresa's DNA on it, no way. Look at my spare key that I've used one time ever. My DNA is probably all over the damn thing. Just saying. But we'll go on.
And that her bone fragments were found intertwined with steel belts in a burn pit near his front door.
Okay. First of all, it wasn't his front door. It was behind the garage in the burn pit. Her bones being intertwined in the steel radials from the car, the tires. You're dumping the bones out into a burn pit. Probably don't want them all in a pile, so it looks obvious that they've been dumped, right? So what are you going to do? Grab the shovel, grab the rake, grab whatever the fuck that's right nearby that Stephen was using to tend the fire. It's still sitting there, to mix them around a little bit. We're talking about, wires. There's no way to mix them in. I mean, it's not like they got stuck in there or something. It basically just says somebody stirred the shit up, and that's all that means. It doesn't mean what he's acting like it means.
Avery's attorneys thought it was improper for people to view that evidence and conclude that it tends to point to Stephen Avery's.
Okay. His attorneys didn't think it was improper. Okay? They want presumption of innocence until proven guilty. And that is what every person deserves. Period. But when you've already been tried in the media and, you're starting way downhill, you're kind of screwed. Not very many people are going to believe, no matter what evidence you bring to show that this could have happened. We're not even going to go into the Denny ruling yet, but
guilt. They thought no one should jump to any such conclusions. That is a central theme of episode 3, that jumping to conclusions and not relying on actual physical evidence led to Stephen Avery's arrest and the subsequent criminal charges against him. However, the series has no problem showing people who jump to the conclusion that investigators somehow planted evidence. That is a conclusion to which the filmmakers want their audience to jump.
Okay. Again, we are talking about actual footage, okay? Interviews with people. I guess, in a way, no one's asking them questions. They are just talking to the camera like I'm talking to you. No one is sitting here interviewing me or asking me questions or asking me for direction or telling me what to say. I don't have a script. That's why there's a lot of pauses and nonsense going on. Sorry. That's... yeah.
So they talked to conspiracy theorists in a local bar. Seriously, a local bar.
I really do think he was framed. There's a lot that points to where the sheriff's department could have had something to do with it.
I don't care if they hate me, that somehow, some way, something got set up. I don't care who it was, and they can say, oh, you really believe the Manitowoc Police Department and the FBI and everybody came in and they set this all up just to have Stephen Avery murder mistake? Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Yes, I do.
There is literally no way that this barfly could possibly have any evidence to support this conclusion.
First of all, Mr. Disrespectful, there is no need to talk about a person hanging out in a bar. First of all, they're not conspiracy theorists. They're just people. Normal people who live there. And if you watch that part of the video, you can see Charles Avery playing pool with one of the people that's interviewed. So they probably know a little bit more about it than the normal citizen might, who's just watched the news. They have a little bit more information than the normal citizen who's just watched the news and heard Ken Kratz nonsense. So yes, when they are hearing this probably from one of their friends, I'm assuming, Charles Avery, playing pool with, they probably made up their own mind that that's what they believe. Not to mention, I want to point this out, when I was at the protest at the end of last month, I personally met 3 different people, okay? 3 different people who either know somebody who is or has been wrongly convicted. One of them was personally wrongly convicted of something, and I believe, from what he tells me, is suing currently. So, there is some nonsense going on in this place. I don't know why, but it is.
But the show allows her to make a wild and very defamatory allegation anyway. Unfortunately.
First of all, that's her opinion, okay? It's not an allegation. She's saying, I don't believe it. Yes, I do believe this thing. That's not... What are you trying to say? She's throwing this out there, presenting it as a fact? No, she's saying that's her opinion. And she's allowed to do that, and so am I, and so are you.
For Avery, though, speculation from random tavern goers is generally not considered admissible evidence in a court of law.
That's too bad.
After a brief stop at the bar for some conspiracy theorizing, Making a Murderer presents Avery's settlement of his lawsuit against Manitowoc County for what is presented as a paltry sum of just $400,000. Avery, of course, needs the money to pay for a criminal defense attorney, but the show's central premise that the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department framed Avery for murder to avoid having to pay $36 million relies on a rather large presumption, namely that Avery would have settled. While he needed money, it would have been very possible that he could have kept his lawsuit going and had his father sell his business to help pay for a defense attorney. After all, the show makes clear that Alan Avery had unsuccessfully tried to put up his property as bond for Stephen, and the 2 men even discuss selling the salvage yard to help Stephen out with his defense. Alan believed his son was innocent, and as such would not have hesitated to sell the business, something the show indicates he was planning to do anyways.
Okay. I don't remember that part of the show, and I do know for a fact from a family member that they are not planning to sell the business. So I don't know where that came from. If that's your opinion, that's something that you saw and I missed somehow. Of course, this was 10 years ago, but I know now, obviously, they still own it, and now I do know they're not planning to sell it. So, just saying.
So he could retire. Although the Avery family would have incurred a short-term loss of several $100,000, they would have still been in line for a $36 million payout, or more likely a settlement in the neighborhood of several $1 million, if in fact the evidence of intentional deprivation of civil rights was really as strong as Avery's civil attorneys claimed that it was. But Avery does settle and uses the money to hire Jerome Buting and Dean Strang, whose very first comments in the series are speculation, based only on the investigators' supposed motives.
I didn't see them plant evidence with my own 2 eyes. I didn't see it. But do I understand how human beings might be tempted to plant evidence under the circumstances in which the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department found itself after Stephen's exoneration, of the lawsuit, of the Avery Commission, of the governor hugging Stephen and holding him up as an example of the criminal justice system gone wrong? Do I have any difficulty understanding what human emotions might have driven police officers to want to augment or confirm their beliefs that he must have killed Teresa Halbach? I don't have any difficulty understanding those human emotions at all.
That doesn't mean that they did. Again, an extraordinary allegation requires extraordinary evidence to support it. And
okay. Dean Strang, all along, first of all, Dean and Jerry are brilliant, amazing, awesome people, awesome attorneys who really put everything that they could, everything that they were allowed to, into this defense. And yes, it is a possibility that this happened. And I don't care who you are, me, the police, nobody, you know, I don't care what any of you say. The only people that know that for sure are the people that put those things there, and that could have been Stephen. It could have been Brennan. It could have been the police. It could have been another person who was trying to frame him. It could have been. Okay? Not one single piece of evidence actually ties Stephen to Teresa's murder. Period. Name one, please. Name one. One thing that links him to her murder. Just because bones were found in his backyard, so what? I can go dump something in someone's backyard. That doesn't mean they put it there, does it? No, it doesn't. Same with all the other things.
Episode 3 doesn't present any other than the fact that Manitowoc County Sheriff's Lieutenant James Lenk was the investigator who found Teresa Halbach's RAV4 key in Stephen Avery's bedroom.
They conclude that he's guilty right off the bat.
This was all the way over.
And they thought, we're going to make sure he's convicted. And they helped along by planting his blood in the RAV4 and by planting that key in his bedroom.
Here's the problem. Avery's DNA was found on that key, and his DNA was also found in 6 different places in and on Halbach's car.
No, his blood was found. Just saying. His blood was. Yes, you can get DNA from blood, but there's a difference. I mean, there was no blood under the hood latch, for example. Just like Stephen's DNA was on the key. It is not from blood either.
Avery's defense centered on the possibility that investigators planted blood from a blood sample they had taken of him years earlier on the crime scene. But the DNA on Halbach's car key wasn't from blood. It was from either sweat or skin cells. Avery's sweat or skin DNA was also found on the hood latch of Halbach's RAV4. The defense never even raised the possibility that the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department had any access to Stephen Avery's sweat. So how would they have obtained sweat and or skin cells from him to plant on the key and on the hood?
Dirty t-shirt. He works in a salvage yard. How about that? Is that good enough for you? Dirty, sweaty t-shirt. Underwear, socks, you name it. Toothbrush. Tons of things that they could get his DNA from. And it doesn't have to be from sweat, because you can't tell what it's from, other than it is not from blood.
Hood latch. Avery never once...
Okay, I'm gonna pause for just a second because I have no idea what just happened to this episode.